In the city, Peter goes through his daily routine with his wife Alice and their 2 daughters. One night, he's looking out the window when a bright light appears in the sky. Suddenly burning objects begin falling and killing all the people on the streets as they try to run away. When the building gets hit as well, Peter wakes up and realizes it was a nightmare. This has been going on for weeks and Alice asks him to see a doctor because the family is worried, but he says he can figure it out himself. Alice is frustrated and points out he wakes her up every time he has a nightmare, so he isn't the only one dealing with lack of sleep. The next morning, Peter promises his daughter Lucy to get off of work early so they can go to the pier. He also agrees to throw a party tomorrow to celebrate Alice's promotion, which surprises her because lately they almost never see their friends. Then Peter gets in the elevator to go to work and his daughter Hannah is acting as the operator for fun. Their neighbor Ray also joins them, so Peter has to wait for him to leave to apologize to his daughter for being absent lately. On his way to work, Peter notices a weirdly shaped building and he doesn't know if it's real or he's seeing things. At the factory, he's in the middle of handling some equipment when one of his hands starts shaking. Suddenly he sees blood on it and gets a vision in which he's beating up someone on the floor. He snaps out of it when he hears the equipment failing, caused by his distraction. His boss David notices this and recommends him a good clinic, but Peter insists he's fine. However, he does take the chance to ask if he can leave early and David agrees in exchange for Peter promising he'll go to the clinic. Meanwhile, Alice is doing great at work and her boss wants to bring her into another project, but she turns it down so she can leave early and be with her family. After getting the clinic's phone number from David, Peter starts getting ready to leave. He notices a light flickering on the desk and suddenly more visions take over his mind. He sees himself fixing a light while hearing a person on TV talking about giving a certain group a chance to benefit the planet. However, another person says they have no rights and that they'll rise up against humanity. The vision shows people on a protest in the streets with signs that says Earth is for humans, then burning objects appear on the sky and starts killing people. Peter falls when the building is hit, but he still runs away because he sees invaders in the corridor shooting at people. When Peter finds Alice hiding, he wakes up and finds himself on the ground of the factory. To Peter's shock, he must have unconscious for a while because he's late for his family meeting. As he runs out, he notices a light appearing on the sky and asks other people about it, but nobody else sees it. At that moment he sees a telescope on a store display and decides to buy it. At home, Alice tries to make up an excuse for Peter, but the girls don't buy it and they're still disappointed. When Peter finally arrives, he tries to apologize, however Alice is furious and keeps on scolding him. Peter has no choice but to admit he passed out at work, however Lucy is woken up by their fight and Alice has to go take care of her. That night, Peter dreams about the invasion again and this time he sees Lucy crying next to her dead parents, begging them to wake up. Suddenly Hannah comes out with a gun, only for Peter to wake up and stare at the clinic's number. The next day, Peter tries to talk to his daughters, but Hannah leaves the room. Lucy is angry too, but at least Peter gets to apologize to her and fixes her broken talking monkey. Before leaving for work, Peter tells Alice he's called the doctor for an appointment, which gives her hope. Later at the clinic, Peter meets a fellow patient, who reveals that he's having the same visions. The guy believes something big is coming and that the people in the clinic erase their thoughts to stop society from going into chaos. Then the man leaves for his appointment and Peter starts having visions again. He sees the city destroyed and a group of armed survivors being guided by David, who offers the factory as a base. Starting to understand the other patient, Peter decides to leave the clinic without seeing the doctor. When he gets home, he tells Alice that he thinks his visions are warning them about an incoming disaster and he skipped the doctor, leaving Alice very disappointed. That night it's Alice's party, but instead of mingling, Peter chooses to be in the balcony with his telescope, expecting the worst. When the party is coming to an end, Ray comes to tell Peter he should concentrate on his family. Suddenly they hear some thundering noises and the sky lights up with falling glowing objects. To Peter's shock, Ray can see it too. As Alice and Ray's wife join them, a drone flies by and crashes into a building, causing a huge explosion that sends shockwaves through the city, tearing it apart. Peter's group are thrown against the window and lands inside the apartment. They quickly recover and take a look outside to learn they're under attack just like in Peter's visions. Terrified, they run back inside and start looking for their kids. Lucy is hiding under the table, but Hannah left with Ray's daughter to play at their place. Peter rushes out of the apartment to find her and is surrounded by lots of people running around in panic as they keep hearing explosions outside. When Peter enters Ray's apartment, he's shocked to see a strange aircraft at the window that triggers his memories, so he freezes. The aircraft is about to open fire, but thankfully Ray drags Peter away just in time. They run to hide in another room and after the aircraft leaves, Ray says he didn't find the girls in his place. Next the men hurry to the elevator and work together to open it by force, only to find a body inside. When they open the other one, they see it in the floor below so they carefully descend on it and open the hatch to finally find their daughters. As the guys help the girls come out, power goes out in the building. In the apartment, Alice and Lucy cling to each other, hiding under the table while the aircraft flies by with its searching light. Luckily the duo isn't found. On the stairs, Peter pauses to peek behind the door and discovers a soldier invader is now in the hallways. They immediately rush upstairs and each family returns to their own apartment. Peter tells Alice that this chaos matches his visions and he remembers David's words, saying they should hide in the factory. However, they can still hear people being shot in the corridors, so for now they move some furniture to barricade the door and make the girls hide in the bedroom closet. Suddenly someone starts pounding on the door, so Peter and Alice use all their strength to keep it closed. At the same time Lucy realizes she lost her monkey and goes looking for it under the table. At that moment the soldier in the corridor fires at the door, but thankfully the couple ducks just in time. Then the soldier starts making holes in the wall, so the couple runs to the bedroom to hide and discovers Lucy is missing. When the soldier comes in, he hears Lucy's toy and comes closer, only to stare at her as if he was shocked by what he sees. He tries to touch her, but Peter arrives and kicks him off. Then they start fighting and after lots of struggle Peter steals the soldier's weapon, but he can't use it. As the fight continues, Alice appears at the door and calls for Lucy to take her back to the bedroom. The soldier overpowers Peter and tries to stab him, but before the knife can reach him Alice hits the guy to make him fall. Then she starts beating him up and knocks him out, only stopping when Lucy calls out for her. Afterward the family leaves with the soldier's weapons and sneaks around the corridors while dodging tons of bodies. They take the stairs as they continue to hear screaming and explosions, so Peter goes to the roof first for safety. Suddenly he's attacked by someone, but he dodges just in time and notices it's Ray. Both families reunite and they stare at the city, which is burning down while the aircraft search the area with their lights. An aircraft suddenly destroys the neighboring building and Peter's group immediately hides to avoid being seen. The aircraft leaves after finding nobody and the group agrees they can't stay there, so they climb into the glass cleaner's lift. They barely go down a few floors before one of the supports breaks, forcing them to enter an apartment through a window. The lift falls right after the last person climbs out of it. Meanwhile the soldier wakes up and activates the tracker on his gun to look for the survivors. At the new apartment Peter examines the gun and discovers it's got a biometric trigger which can only be shot by its owner. The group discusses what to do and Peter once again brings up the factory, saying it was built as a fortress. There are soldiers still on the streets though, so Alice tells them about a tunnel a few blocks from there that could take them directly to the factory. At that moment the invaders shoot at the apartment and everyone is knocked down by the explosion. Alice runs to protect her girls but Ray's daughter runs to look for her dad, who is already dead. Her mother catches her before she can fall into a crater on the ground and the aircraft appears again, opening fire. Peter drags his family out of the apartment while hearing how Ray's wife and daughter get killed. In the hallway, Peter's family sees two more soldiers and hide behind a wall. Peter grabs some wires from the floor and uses it to mess with the gun, bypassing its biometric authentication. When the soldiers get closer, Peter manages to quickly shoot them down in quick succession. Then the family leaves the building, finding the streets full of debris and flames. They can see more soldiers bringing out people to kill them and they rush to hide as the massacre continues. At that moment a bunch of armed locals open fire on the soldiers, starting a gunfight that quickly ends when an aircraft kills them all from above. In the apartment building, the soldier from before finds his teammates dead. He immediately leaves and keeps on following the tracker on his gun. Back to the family, they run through dark areas until they make it to the tunnel. Peter goes first to open it, then Alice sends Hannah who goes down quickly. Next is Lucy, who freezes when she sees an aircraft approaching. Alice jumps in to pick her up and starts running toward the tunnel as the aircraft opens fire. The family gets inside just in time for the explosion to hit the entrance and more debris falls. The emergency lights are still working and Alice discovers she has a severe wound on her abdomen. Peter helps her walk but after some moments of wandering through the tunnels, Alice is too weak to keep going and Peter puts her down so she can rest. At that moment the soldier from before shows up and Lucy warns Peter just in time so he can defend himself from the attack. Another fight starts and in the struggle Peter breaks a pipe, filling the tunnel with smoke. Peter keeps on firing even though he can't see the soldier, who suddenly jumps out of the smoke to attack again. As the soldier tries to take his gun back, Peter picks up a brick and starts beating the guy up with it until he breaks the helmet. Then Peter demands to know why they're attacking, so the soldier takes off his helmet and everyone is shocked to see a young human named Miles, who refuses to answer any questions. Suddenly the girls cry because Alice has passed out, so Peter holds Miles at gunpoint and makes him carry his wife. Eventually they make it to the factory and Peter uses the password on the lock, but it won't open. Peter starts pounding on the door until it finally goes up and David appears with a bunch of guards. They immediately put Alice on a stretcher and the soldier gets arrested. Once inside, the doctor keeps electrocuting Alice to get a diagnosis, making her whole body repeatedly shake. Peter freaks out but everyone holds him down, saying it's a normal diagnosis method. When Peter points out it feels like David had been ready for this, David explains that the invasion has been expected for many years. As the roof shakes under the attack from the invaders, David orders his men to kill Miles. The doctor says there's nothing he can do for Alice, so Miles suddenly shouts that he can help. At first Peter thinks the guy is lying to be spared, but he looks at his dying wife and is desperate enough to let him try. The shelter keeps on shaking and David announces an evacuation, mentioning he has transport in a lower tunnel. Peter tells his daughters to leave with David while he helps their mom. Afterward, Peter and Miles take Alice into another room and Miles starts cutting Alice without any kindness, which makes Peter angry again. Miles opens up Alice's skin and reveals a bunch of mechanical parts with the bullet stuck in them. Peter freaks out and Miles realizes he doesn't know what they truly are. He explains Alice needs an alternate source of power and Peter can provide it, so he gives him instructions on how to access himself. Peter uses a knife and is shocked not to feel any pain at all as his skin opens up, revealing he also has mechanical parts and artificial organs. Miles warns him that if this doesn't work they'll both die, but Peter tells him to do it anyway. As Miles connects Peter to Alice, Peter passes out and sees the visions again. It turns out they don't predict the future, they're actually memories from the past. Peter and Alice are AI robots known as synthetics, who used to work as janitors and weren't treated well by their bosses. The humans created all synthetics to serve them, but their numbers were rising and people started to argue if synthetics deserved rights too. Protests took over the streets, claiming that synthetics were stealing their jobs and Earth was for humans. Eventually humanity got tired of synthetics and started a war against them, opening fire on a normal afternoon to kill them all. Peter hid with Alice and when a human almost found them, Peter quickly knocked him out. Then he took his gun and shot at more incoming human soldiers. The first human woke up and tried to capture Alice, so Peter started beating him up until he was truly dead. At that moment more synthetics showed up and Peter gave them the weapons from the soldiers so they could defend themselves. Since synthetics were advanced and hard to kill, the humans had to give up and left Earth to start a new society on Mars. In the city, a group of synthetics patrolled the streets to check the damage, revealing that all of Peter's co-workers and neighbors were also artificial. David was sure humans would come back for more and started preparing the factory as a base for the future. Alice found Lucy and Hannah crying for their dead parents. The girls were both synthetics who had been adopted by humans. Hannah pointed a gun at them, but the couple explained they were synthetics too and Peter hugged her. That day they adopted the girls. Afterward the synthetics started rebuilding the city and lived a normal life with the rights they always wanted. Some synthetics wanted to forget about the war and the guilt of killing, so they wiped their memories to forget everything, including their own nature. David and his team kept it so they could protect everyone in the future. Sometimes synthetics would get glimpses of their memories back, so they would be sent to the clinic to erase them again. In the present, Peter wakes up and notices the connection, discovering Alice has survived. He wonders why Miles is helping them. So the guy explains the war happened to his grandfather's generation many years ago. On Mars he had been thought that synthetics are horrible creatures that love to kill, but when he landed on Earth he was shocked to see normal families just trying to live their lives. At that moment Alice wakes up and because of the connection, she got her memories back as well. Meanwhile all the survivors are going through the other tunnel and find a train waiting for them. However Lucy refuses to leave without her parents and Hannah sits with her to wait. At the main entrance, the roof breaks and the humans open fire on the synthetic guards, who try their best to defend the factory while getting killed one by one. Back to Miles, he closes up the couple's wounds and lets them go, refusing to fight. Peter and Alice carefully move around the factory, taking cover wherever they can as they watch the humans and the synthetics kill each other in an endless trail of violence. Alice finds a gun and opens fire too, providing cover for Peter who runs to pick up Lucy's monkey and hides to open fire as well. Downstairs, David brings the last survivors and closes the door, causing the sisters to protest. Feeling bad, David opens it again. The sisters don't want to get in the train, so David and his men have to take them by force. As soon as they have an opening, Peter and Alice go down the tunnel and the soldiers follow them. The couple locks the door behind them and starts running, noticing the train is leaving without them. Thankfully the driver hears their yelling and stops the vehicle, allowing the sisters to reunite with their parents. At that moment the soldiers blow up the door so David opens fire, buying enough time for him and the family to get in the train. The transport takes off and the local synthetics finally get to escape. A weapon at the end of the train makes sure to keep on shooting to stop the soldiers from following them, and a gate closes after they go through. Sometime later, the train crosses a bridge over the sea, and that bridge is destroyed after they pass through so nobody can know the location where the synthetics will be starting a new life.